Person next to you, describe it. You got 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Yes, I'll work tonight after at Jerry's. I should have and I could actually maybe not have to try to make not working. I can say it this time, so I should have said
Oh, you're really good. Okay, so this is what you need to do. You need to take an action. And what do you really need to do? Just say no, okay? So these are some things you can do, but this is what we really want to recognize. That if we always do what we've always done, you will always get what you always got. Got it? If we always do what we always did, we'll always get what we always got. Can you say that? We always do what we always did, we'll always get what we always got. So here's what we got to do, folks. We're going to set some boundaries. And setting boundaries is a skill. And I will tell you, do not start with the big things. Start with little things. Get really good at it. Then you can drop the bomb. So we're going to get good at that. So we're going to use a sandwich technique. Anybody know what that is? It's not a ham sandwich. Anybody know what the sandwich technique is?
Yeah. Positive, negative, positive.
Exactly. So we're going to start, but by the way, this is only an issue for people you care about. Okay? If a marketing person calls you on the telephone, you do not have to use this process. It's nice to practice on them, but it's not critical. So, positive message first. Positive feeling message. Negative content. And I will tell you, be very clear on negative content. We'll talk about that. And then the third part is finish with a positive. Now, I asked, do your friends like you when you say no? Most of the time, if you can use this technique, they will. So what's a positive feeling message? Okay, thank you for asking. I appreciate your concern. Sounds like this is important. Does that feel pretty good to most of you? Yeah, it's not abrasive, straightforward. Thank you for asking. I can hear this is important to you. I appreciate you thinking of me. Negative content. Now, there are some ways to approach negative content. By the way, I have a 13-page handout on this if you're really into it. What is conditional? I will help if. Set some guidelines, so you set some boundaries. I'll be glad to take you to the mall. How many of you have kids? Oh, this is a great one. Great power with this one. I'll be glad to take you to the mall when your room is done. No problem. Just let me know when you're ready. Are you going to take me to practice now? Yep, as soon as you've got the floor cleaned up. But I'll be late to practice. I don't have a personal relationship with the team. That's your issue. Okay? I'm not available, but feel free to ask me next week. If I were doing a conference, I would say, I'm not available. Feel free to ask me in 2 years. Third element. Thank you again for asking. I appreciate you considering me. I appreciate you thinking of me. Feel free next year, blah, blah, blah. If you can give me a week's notice. How many of you have friends that last minute, or family members worse, last minute they lay it on you? I need to go to the mall now. That's saying they don't really give a damn about your time. Because you're going to say yes. And you're going to drop what you're doing, even if it's important, and give it away. I challenge you, don't give it away. there's one more piece to this. Focus on what you do if you're refusing to do something. I grew up in an Italian household, and if I went home, my mother expected me to eat. Okay? So refusal skills sound like this. Focus on what you will do, not what they have to do. Thanks, but I'm not hungry. Feel free to share the food with my brother. Okay? You're welcome, but I'm going to stay. How many of you have been to a party and one person wants to leave? You're welcome to leave. I'm going to stay. Thank you for offering, but I'm not hungry. We went over that one. Okay. Got it clear? So, with your intimate friend who's sitting next to you, I want one of you to pose the question that your partner shared. So, everybody stand up. Okay, face a partner. The shorter person is going to be the person that refuses, and the taller person is the person that will confront them. So if Steve were my partner, okay, I'm going to refuse his request. Okay? Got the idea? So Steve will make a request of me that you already talked about. Some request.
Jim, would you be willing to do 4 more presentations today?
You know, Steve, I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm really honored with this group of people, and you've done obviously a great job. Well, you feel good? Yeah. Okay. But my wife said I had to be home at noon.
I completely understand.
You know. Got it? Practice. Go ahead.
That's negotiating skills. I like it.
Good job. Give yourselves a hand. Now, in a different environment, we get a little more practice, but I'm just trying to say to you, look, none of this stuff may come easy, and it will take practice. It just doesn't happen normally. This isn't a normal response for some of us. It took me 5 years to figure out how to say no to my wife. We've been married 40 years. It wasn't the last 5 years. It was the first 5. But the point being is, it takes practice. And practice will get better. So start small. Start with simple things. Dumb requests. Even things that seem inconsequential. Practice the model. Instead of just saying, Terry, no, I can't do it. Practice the model. Because the more you practice the model, the stronger you'll get. And at some point, it'll feel really comfortable. And you may still get into situations that are difficult, but at least you'll have a way to deal with them. So I promised you I would tell you how to say no to your boss. Okay? Many times bosses unconsciously or consciously keep giving you stuff. And you guys know about that. So here's what you do. So I'm your boss. No, you're my boss. And you say, Jim, would you do this? And I will say immediately, yes. But here's the kicker. Tell me what your most important priorities are because time is limited. Help me to understand what's important to you, and then I'll start. Are you okay with that? Because to say do it all, and you were already committed to a full-time job anyways, means that the rest of your job really wasn't that important. So clarify what's important, and go forward from there. Got it? Any questions? Reduce anxiety. Do any of you experience anxiety? Okay. If it's related to the person next to you, move your seat. In this classroom, though, it's kind of hard, so I'll give you a way to deal with it. Okay. First of all, we tend to make the connection that all anxiety is psychological. It's not. There are other reasons to feel anxiety. Food allergies can be a part of that. Now, I've taught stress management for over 35 years. One of the elements that people don't recognize is that nutrition can be a big contributor to it. Now, there's some obvious things, and I'm happy to say I don't see very many of you drinking Mountain Dew in here, but a couple Pepsis. As soon as I say that, they just cover up. But caffeine can increase your level of anxiety. I had a student that showed up in the emergency room on 3 different occasions. Finally, after 3 trips to the emergency room, they figured it out. She was allergic to caffeine. Just a simple thing like that. I had a friend who had a coronary because he was taking excess caffeine. Now, most of you would say, what is excess caffeine? I will give you a new definition. 4 liters of Pepsi a day. Okay? I'm not saying do that, try it out. I'm just saying. But food allergies could be one. I had another friend that was institutionalized on 2 different occasions with depression. Guess what the precursor was to his depression? He had an allergy to wheat. So I'm not suggesting that all food is bad, but I am saying that if you experience anxiety, you might want to take a look at what you're putting in your body. Remember I told you that everything's connected. So as you begin to think about food, there's a simple way to test this. It's called the single elimination diet. Now, what does that really mean? You don't live on the single elimination diet. You identify a food that you might have a concern about. You eat your normal intake of it on Sunday, and then I'm going to tell you for 5 days, don't take any form of that food in at all. And then on Saturday of the following week, take it in. If you notice a behavior change, an anxiety level change, maybe you have an insensitivity to that food. Got it? You can check it. You don't have to go to an allergist because the allergist may not be able to see it this way. Got it? Tension, release, and diversion. What do you do to blow it off every day? That's healthful. So, I have a 5th every day. I don't feel anything. The reality is that you need to have some releases. General rule of thumb, and in our society it's getting harder, but if you have a mental job, you need a physical release. If you have a physical job, I have a guy right now that's at my house, he's moving brush. He doesn't need more exercise. It would probably be good for him because obviously he's still overeating, but the reality is he doesn't need more exercise. So that's just a sort of a simple rule on tension relief. But what works for you? And I would tell you, plan it in your day. How many times do people say, I'm going to exercise 3 days a week? How many of you have heard that? That's great. And then you miss on Wednesday, right? I would tell you, plan every day, and if you miss, it's not a big deal. Now, I know some of you are sitting there saying, every day? Are you kidding? No, I'm not kidding. You get imbalanced every day, why not rebalance every day? Got it? This is the one you're going to do. Belly breathing. Don't look at the person's stomach next to you when we do this. But how many of you find that if you're a little uptight, you take a sigh? Right? Well, belly breathing just changes the direction of the thought in a number of ways. One, it changes what you're focusing on. Two, it creates a physical release. And three, no one really needs to know you're doing it. So your boss is giving you a hard time, you can start to belly breathe. Or breathe, just breathe, don't even get complicated. So, what I'd like you to do is put your hand on your upper chest and your belly. By the way, anything I do, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to, just be still and don't do anything else. You can breathe. Okay. So if you would, just either focus on something in front of you or close your eyes, and I just want you to rate yourself on a 1 to 10 right now. How do you feel?
1 being good, 10 being good.
Whatever you like.
Just to clarify.
Yeah. Ready? Go ahead. And just start focusing on your breathing. Slowly taking air in, slowly releasing, letting go. If you would, just bring your attention back to. Now, reevaluate where you feel you are. How many of you feel more relaxed than you were 40 seconds ago? Look at them up. You can do this 30 times a day. Doesn't matter. Now, some students have said to me, if I do deep breathing at my desk, I am afraid people will get the wrong idea. Go in the bathroom, shut the stall, and just practice your deep breathing. Just don't do it too loud because then people will get another idea. Are you clear about this? You can do it as often as you want. It can't hurt you. And it will get you down. It will reduce heart rate. It will reduce the neurohormones that are stress-related. It will help. I can't tell you how many students have said, but it's so simple. It's only simple if you don't understand how to do it or you don't use it. It works. I challenge you to try it. I'm going to start with one more, just try to wind up with one more issue. This issue focuses on own your own feelings all too often. How many of you have heard things like this? Oh God, that kid is driving me crazy. Sure, okay? Or, oh my God, this test is going to just drive me crazy. We give too much power to things and people. What's driving you crazy is not that person. It's what you're saying about the situation and the person. So don't give them any power. You have to define your own attitude. Your attitude will define your reality. If you see it as a negative, then most likely it will be. You have a choice. What are your options? And your options are to feel better. I had a friend that used to get up every day. She'd stand in front of the mirror and she'd say, "Oh, you beautiful babe." We had a speaker here many years ago who was the #1 marketing executive for the city of Chicago. Big power position. African-American lady. Beautiful woman. But you would have never known that she came from a place of welfare, single mother. How did she get there? One day she got up, she looked in the mirror and she said, "I don't like what I see. I'm going to change it." And once she made the decision to change direction, her life changed. Your life can change. There is great power in understanding that. And if you really want a definition of what attitude is, that's attitude, the little guy in front. Okay? So, Swindell says this. He says that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% what I choose to do about it. Play on the one string that you have. That's your attitude. It is your choice, folks. You have lots of power. Don't give it away. And in terms of what you do that affects attitude, how many of you know that if you exercise, you feel better? Okay? How many of you know that if you're feeling lousy, you don't deal with things the same way as if you're feeling positive? Sure. So what does that say to you? Do things that promote positive attitudes. If you have people around you that are dragging you down, why do you hold on to them?
You don't
I don't say I'm married, I'm stuck. The point being is, you have choices. And you don't have to be negative about it or mean about it, but you can create distance. There is great power in understanding that. And as you begin to think about that, begin to realize that you're really always at a beginning. Someone said to me once that you never really mature, you're at just different stages of adolescence. I think that's sort of where I'm at right now. Okay. So here's what I'd like you to do. You got just 30 seconds with the person next to you to think about one thing you'd like to do in the next week for yourself. Talk. I'd like to close with this thought. We can look at this, but recognize that sometimes we start to feel badly about ourselves. I had a student many years ago who was unemployed, and he'd come into my class, but he was like up all the time. And I said, William, why are you so happy? I mean, you've been unemployed for 1.5 years, for Pete's sake. He said, well, let me tell you a story. I was depressed for 6 months. And I had, my neighbor knew I wasn't doing anything, so he said, look, would you take my daughter around school? She's in a wheelchair, and they're having this event, Special Olympics or something. Would you wheel her around? Yes, sir. I don't have anything better to do. So for 2 days, he wheels her around. And he sees these kids with really big issues. And he says, he looks at those issues and he said, boy, they're amazing. But at the end, the little girl said, he was getting ready to go, the little girl says, I want to give you something. And he said, you don't need to give me anything. She said, yes, I do. Stand here. So he stands in front of her wheelchair. She pushes herself up and hugs him and said, I've never given that to anybody else. You make choices. Create an attitude of gratitude. Make choices about what you do with your time and where you go. Folks, have a great day. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of announcements before we kind of spread out and break off.